Hello everyone. Happy Monday. Give me a minute here and I'll share out this live stream link on Discord and Twitter. You know the drill. We're going to get into the charts. I hope everybody had a great weekend. All right. There's the link in Discord, and then I'll put it on Twitter. Give people a few minutes to get in here. What a move on Bitcoin. Exactly as predicted, as they would say. So we're going to go over some of the local price action. What's happening here as we attempt to break out towards all-time highs. This may surprise some of you, but this is not where I would be longing personally. In fact, I'm in a hedge short. And I'll just explain that the reason I would actually hedge short here versus take profits on my longs is because I'm bullish. I'd rather just carry the longs I've been adding to, and in fact add to them on a retracement, but protect my long position with a hedge short here at a key level. And if we break out, I'll carry my longs and I'll stop out my short. But I'm going to go over some of that plan because it in fact was my plan to hedge short here, way down here. And we're going to go over that really quickly. The reason for the short. We're going to look at some of this order flow. I think we need to be cautious from a shorting perspective, of course, right? Like I'm carrying longs. We want to start seeing some breakdown of this structure. And I'll talk about where my targets will be. Ultimately, I'm looking for a minor rejection to then add to longs. But we're going to go over that idea here. What I'll be looking for in the week ahead, because I would just say that generally speaking, price action is playing out almost identical to what my plan was. So we're just going to head over to the Discord really quick. We're going to take a look at order flow. Should note some aggressive longs opening up here. Maybe we'll just look at that really quickly. In fact, let's look at this really quick. We're going to look at a few different things. 22.7 million positive delta in this 5-minute candle. Increase in open interest. So aggressive longs coming in here. We had some big positive delta here, but this was primarily a shorts getting stopped out and probably longs taking profits. But, you know, what's unique about this? 22.7 million delta in this 5-minute candle. All these aggressive longs coming in right here. Let's call it at the local top. It's the place on this chart, since, you know, we were consolidating around 65K, where the most aggressive longs have come in. What looks wrong with that picture? Is there any reason you might not want to be longing here versus anywhere else in this chart as your most aggressive long? Why is it that the most aggressive longs are coming in here, big increase in open interest, and the most aggressive selling and shorting is coming in at the lows? Look at here, 15 million negative delta increase in open interest. Why was everyone aggressively shorting here? And why is everyone aggressively longing here, right? So you don't want to be on the side of these emotional traders who are opening big size, shorting the lows, longing the highs. And it's not to say that we can't break out here, but of course we can be a little bit more diligent with our trading and look to be longing into support and not into local resistance. So I don't think there's anything wrong with not shorting this, because for me it's a hedge. And in some ways there's nothing wrong with not taking profits on longs, but I'd rather protect that position a little bit. And so we're going to go into the reasons why. I might be looking for a local pullback here. So when last week I was just taking longs, and I was explaining why I wasn't bearish, and explaining in the Discord, you know, people will sometimes note that they appreciate my support in the Discord, and I think what they mean by that is that I'm not looking to just give signals, right? I'm looking to explain everything I'm doing and why, and explaining that if I'm bullish from here, we have this impulse, we have this retracement. Does anything about this retracement negate my bullish thesis? No, it's all in the context of my bullish thesis. So I'm actually going to be adding to my longs. That's my plan, to add to my longs. And I actually want to add to my longs higher on retracements. And so I just explained that my basic plan here would be to look for price to come take these highs, maybe a minor rejection. I'm going to explain my thought process then, and if you were on yesterday's live stream, you'll understand. But just be longing all the retests of these range lows, and then maybe price comes up and sweeps this 4-hour wick. So that might be a hedge short opportunity. But the idea would be a minor rejection, push up through these range highs, maybe come retest these lows. That's where I want to be adding. So before this move comes up, when I'm looking to add to my longs way down here, I'm already thinking about where I would, how I'd like to see price interacting with these levels. And in the Discord, I made a quick video just explaining each leg of the move here, which is expecting people to be quite bearish into this descending trend line. I've seen it on Twitter like 50 times. We have that 786 here right above this high, just looking for the minor rejection on the 786, and then come run this liquidity above the trend line. People get bullish, start breakout longing. This is a screenshot from my video last week, but just looking for support to build here. So that's still my plan. If we just break out, that's fine too. But I'm actually looking to chop some people up here around two kind of ideas that everyone's going to be looking at, in my view. And again, we could just break out here. This is a critical moment. But this descending structure that we're going to be trading, I think, trading around, shorting rejections from it, getting squeezed out. And I think in here I just said minor rejection, and then come up and squeeze out this trend line, taking these highs, this minor high here as well. So people are going to be trading this breakout. They're going to be trading towards all-time highs. Great opportunity to chop people up here around these two ideas. Back below the trend line, people get super bearish, look at this as a deviation, start seeing aggressive shorting coming in here, squeeze everybody out again. So that's my perspective. That was my perspective last week when I was taking the longs, and nothing has changed about that. So we're going to go into... And this is what I said in the Discord a little earlier, is I pointed out these 21 million longs and said, you know, I'm expecting probably a local rejection here. We'll see if that plays out as more likely. But I certainly wouldn't want to be longing here. All right, so let's go back to the charts here. It's kind of nice to be price to be interacting with some critical ideas as we are on the live stream. It's a little more interesting. It's not always the case. But of course, the screenshot we were just looking at from that video was as price is coming down to retest this. Like, is this bearish? No, that's the opportunity to, in my view, to look to add to longs for this move up into these highs. Now, of course, price retests this range. We reclaim the range. And where do we reject from? Our minor rejection. Right at the 786. This could be probably drawn a little bit cleaner. And my idea at the time in the video was come in front run. So what I want to talk about and why I want to go over this is just to expand some of your guys' thought process. Way down here, I'm thinking of come and have a minor rejection from the 786, front running this trend line. So lots of slight front run, lots of people looking to trade it either as a breakout, anticipating a breakout, or to short it. Front run the level, have a rejection, people get bearish, start selling into a front run of the trend line, and then come rip all that liquidity. That's exactly how I described the interaction to the penny of the price action down here in that video. So I think I described that on the live stream yesterday. So that's what we got over the weekend. Of course, aggressive selling into this rejection, lots of people trading around this, lots of people getting ripped out of shorts here. Lots of longs coming in, not actually so much on the breakout, although some, but assuming the breakout has completed. So what do I want to see? Well, I want to see something like this, personally, for adding to longs. I like to see all these trapped longs. And maybe we range here for a bit. Doesn't have to happen immediately. Maybe we even come and run these highs again. I mean, that's always possible without taking the all-time highs. Of course, we do need to be watching all these levels. We have this 4-hour wick. We have this high here. But come and run this liquidity. Maybe put in a minor low. Retest the trend line. Okay, that's kind of a nice technical idea. Looks really bearish. Looks really bullish. This is just local. And then come and take all these lows. And this is where I'd like to add to my longs. And that's been my plan from way down here. Come and sweep this impulse low. This could take an hour. It could take 2 days. Who knows? We'll see what happens here. And so for me personally, whether we're going to break out here or not, I wouldn't personally be longing this. I don't think there's anything wrong with not shorting it. I think the overall context here is just bullish for an all-time high breakout. The question is going to be, are we going to see price run into these lows, form some structure here before making a bigger move, or are we just going to break out? And I probably lean towards preferring the idea of trapping some people around these levels, chopping them up a little bit before the move, but that doesn't mean we have to. And all it means really is I'm very prepared to long the retest of these lows. Because as I pointed out in my updates last week was, and of course, this is a public live stream, lots of people won't even have any idea what I'm talking about. If we form something like this, and actually I'm going to go, I'll put this up. This is going to complicate things a little bit or confuse a lot of people. Just looking at some internal Elliott wave ideas. And let me come back here. Hold on one second. So we might have to look at this a little bit, but again, this is last week before the move. So I'm trying to think about some internal structures here. And of course, why I'm not bullish, why I'm not bearish at the lows is because, well, if all of this, my ideas are correct, we should kind of be seeing this retracement, and we should see price action that looks something like this. Push up for internal wave 3, wave 4, come and take these highs, push up to these highs to make wave 5, retrace. And what I'm pointing out, and I pointed out in my video, is this creates a series of technical retracements into this key level over the next, let's say, week or two that are going to be great long opportunities, build some structure here. And so I like this idea. And again, I drew this out last week before any of this price action took place, which is the idea of down here, why get bearish here? Well, you expect to see the retracement and start looking for something like this, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, completing this wave 3, which is also completing a bigger, an internal wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might have to reassess some of this, but I think the general idea here is clean from a liquidity perspective and a technical perspective, just looking at key horizontal structures, which is if we reject from here, well, the retest of the range lows becomes the GP of our move. And that's what I was pointing out last week is if we reject from here, this actually becomes a beautiful technical retracement. And maybe we have a low to take here. And if we reject from our first test of the all-time highs, something like this, well, then we have another GP coming and retesting these lows, taking this low. And so we build a series of lows here, generate some liquidity, nice long setups. The truth is, I'm just going to be patient for clean long setups. If we break out here into all-time highs, well, I'll just wait for new ideas and structure to form and look to take my longs where I have nice invalidation and clean risk reward. But I would just say that my plan still is just to long every retracement into this level. And I could imagine a scenario where we get a couple of them before a bigger move. Whether that happens or not, we'll find out. We might see on this live stream if any local resistance holds here. But I would just say I like it from a liquidity perspective. Definitely want to keep an eye on order flow here as we come into a key breakout. We have reclaimed this high for now, and price could certainly carry higher. The retest of this trend line is always a nice technical idea to keep an eye out for, but So this is our 5-minute structure right now. This is where all the longs are opening. Not a lot of selling into here. And maybe a little bit of local bearish order flow forming. So I'll just kind of talk about that briefly. What makes it bearish? So it's not bearish because, it's not necessarily bearish because longs are opening. What makes it bearish is aggressive longs are opening into a breakout, into resistance, but price is starting to falter here, right? And even here we can see another 5 point something I thought, but I think some selling just took place. 3.7, 5.5, and a little bit of a bearish divergence here. So what that means is that someone's sitting here with limit sell orders, absorbing some of this aggressive buying pressure. Why might they be doing that? Well, maybe to hold price down and wipe out some of that liquidity. Doesn't mean they have to, but it's bearish because the idea is that bigger traders build positions over larger time frames with limit orders, so limit selling. So for example, let's just say you're a big trader with longs from here and you want to take profits. You're sitting here with a limit sell order, just absorbing all of this buying pressure to take profits on your longs and start taking some short positions. And so you just want to absorb all the FOMO market buying here. And when you start to see some bearish absorption in order flow, all you're really saying is that there are some bigger traders stepping in here, limit selling into this aggressive buying. And it's only bearish because typically, not always, the traders who are moving price are the traders trading with size, with limit orders. And when you start to see those traders stepping in, it's maybe an early sign to get cautious about the move continuing here. And so like I said, nothing wrong with not having a local short here. And maybe even nothing wrong with not taking profits on longs, but certainly I wouldn't be adding my risk here. I wouldn't be longing this with a stop under these lows personally. It's just not the type of trade I would ever take. Okay, let me go to the comments really quick. There always seems to be someone saying my audio is bad, but then it's fine and looks like it's good now. So of course, it's never easy to take longs at support and on retracements, right? So even if we do reject here, you know what? For a lot of people could be sitting here saying, I hope we get this retracement. I'm not long. I hope we have a deep retracement so I can get long. But what do you think is going to happen to that conviction, that confidence when prices, if and when price is actually down here, may not come down here? It's hard to take the long. It's just going to look super bearish. Get a major rejection, couldn't even break out of all-time highs. A lot of people are going to be shorting that. And if you look at price action, I talk about this often, especially in confluence with order flow. To a lot of people, this looks scary to short, and I do want to start seeing some local weakness here develop pretty quickly, or pretty open to pushing to all-time highs. But of course, these impulses aren't necessarily the scariest time to short, as long as you have invalidation, you're using risk management, you have technical ideas. And the lows aren't actually the scariest time to long. The scariest time to long, in hindsight, is on these impulses, right? We can come and look at the chart. The scariest time to short is actually on a big move to the downside, on an impulse to the downside. That's a great way to get wrecked. And so, would I be scared? Why should I be scared to long into the lows? And why should I be scared to short into impulses into the highs as long as I have invalidation and structured trades and risk management? But anyways, that's why I'm head short. But I'm not closing my longs. And ultimately targeting 77K. But so let's use this as an opportunity to just keep an eye on order flow. Keep an eye on how this level's developing. So if we want to kind of build some technical ideas around here, well, we're looking for this idea of we came up and we're running some liquidity. We're taking this high here, some trap longs, currently retesting that high. We've swept it, rejected, we're retesting it. We have a little bit of local structure. If we can't start rejecting here, I don't think there's anything particularly bullish here or bearish in terms of just local price action. And I'm confining that to here. We're starting to see a range. So we could look for price to wick the range highs, retest the lows, and see how this plays out. If we break out of this, that's starting to look a little bit more bullish, right? Just on the local reactions. Right now, we have a retest of the support. But it's not uncommon to see price range a little bit around here. Keep an eye on what type of aggressive trading there is here. And I'll just give a couple examples. This is a bit of a region. I'd be curious to see what happens if we come and run this wick again and reject, which I think is looking more and more likely. We'll see. Oh man, it's so annoying this locks up. But what's the difference here? Well, aggressive longing, aggressive longing, aggressive longing. Some of this is shorts getting stopped out. Some of it's longs getting, longs opening. Versus the difference here. What's happening as we come up to the range highs? It's actually aggressive selling. We see bullish absorption before this last leg up forming at the local highs. We don't see people wanting to aggressively long into this. We actually see CVD making lower lows relative to price making higher lows as we grind up on the lower time frames, and people don't want to long into this, and then they want to actually sell into this. They're aggressively selling and it's getting absorbed, and we have another impulse to the upside. This is starting to look like the opposite. People are wanting to aggressively long this. We can see some of this here as well. What's happening before this breakout over the weekend? This is at 69K. We kind of ranged a bit over the weekend. Well, as price comes up into these highs, nothing too aggressive on the buying and selling. On this first rejection, we see some really aggressive selling coming in. On what? An increase in open interest. So people want to aggressively short into this move. We see CVD making a new low relative to price's higher low. So CVD, that's the orange line. That's a bullish divergence in order flow. So that's bullish as price makes the higher low and we squeeze up higher. So what I like to see personally at key levels for short ideas is I like to see people essentially saying, hey, I'm done selling into this. It's time to buy. I'm aggressively longing here. And price maybe forming a little bit of a range and forming a bearish divergence. So that's what we're starting to see on the low time frame, but we'll see how it plays out. Overall, the context and order flow, I reviewed this on yesterday's live stream, so I won't go over it again. I would say that the order flow is very bullish. The medium, higher time frame order flow looks incredibly bullish. That's why I've been longing, adding to longs as swing longs, and why I'm planning on continuing to add to longs on retracements. But of course, there's no sure things here. And although there's a couple things. There's nothing wrong about just seeing price break out here and the longs carry. I don't really care locally what happens here in terms of a breakout to all-time highs because I have longs, I'm going to head short. I just want more opportunities to add to my longs. And so regardless of if this head short works, or maybe this becomes quite tricky price action and it gets really volatile and there's no clean setup, whatever. I just want to see some of this liquidity taken so I can have some nice clean setups to add to my long positions towards all-time highs. So I'd like to see some weakness here. I'd like to see a deeper retracement so I can take more longs. What? I'm just reading through the chat really quick. All right, so we've established some local context here. Let's keep an eye on all this local price action. So what do we see in order flow? 7.9 million delta coming in here at the highs. So still, I'm not going to be surprised to see us take this high, although we do have a bearish divergence, so we'll just see. But again, this is just aggressive buying, longing, some shorts closing, some longs opening. Let me pull this here. Look at the open interest here. So it's risk coming into the market. This, wow, that scale is way. So this is predominantly risk coming into the market. So there's going to be some people limit shorting into this, absorbing some of this aggressive buying pressure, some people aggressively longing into this. And it looks like, this is something to note locally, right here, a $7 million increase in positive delta at this price. So a big position here coming in, something to keep an eye on as we have evidence of some aggressive longs potentially getting trapped if price starts breaking down, and a big limit seller here. 8.1 million. And so what we're talking about when we say bearish absorption, it does not mean, or what I'm talking about, it does not mean price has to go down. What it means is we're starting to see evidence of a big limit seller here, or price would just be ripping through this, through all this positive delta, right? So some aggressive buying coming in, but let's see what happens here at the local highs, and of course price could just rip through them, right? In which case my head short is going to be stopping out. But if we just wick through this high, big increase in positive delta again and reject, I think we need to look for potentially, always the idea of a local range forming here and aggressive selling. I think leaning bearish here locally would still be my perspective. But yeah, this is much more interesting than anything that's typically happening on a live stream, because we're seeing some of this aggressive buying pressure come in right at the highs. About the 22.7 million. There's about, we have a CVD or delta increase from 94 million across this local range to 108 million here. It's about 14 million positive delta increase between these two highs so far. $9.3 million. So about to take that high, but again, I would just never personally long this. This is like, I don't care what happens here. If I wasn't in a long, if I'd missed all the opportunities to get long, I would never in a million years take a long here. If I miss a breakout, I just miss it. That is FOMO, right? And it's just my perspective that this is FOMO. 9.2 million increase in positive delta here in this candle at the local highs. Why can't we get that kind of energy from some of these aggressive traders down here, right? Where they're aggressively shorting into the lows, and now they're aggressively longing into the highs. This has quite a bearish look to it to me. Of course, I'm always open that anything can happen, but I'm just giving my perspective and the reasoning why. It's a bearish look locally. Again, for anyone tuning into the live stream now, this is a local bearish look. I would never open longs here. Apparently, these guys have a different thought process. As we see 9.2 million longs open here. So let's think about this from not just this candle, but the perspective of what is happening here between this impulse and this local range. This is the 5-minute chart. We're looking at order flow. Well, first you have a shit ton of shorts getting squeezed out. Probably our biggest move in terms of a big candle, short squeeze, decrease in open interest. All this aggressive selling that's been accumulating here. Of course, shorts have been getting wrecked on the way up. But all this aggressive selling that's been coming in here, a lot of shorts have piled up. And here, for the amount price is moving, this is just all quite bullish order flow. So what's happening here at the local highs? Well, a shit ton of shorts take their stop losses. They've finally given up on shorting. And now the most aggressive longs we're seeing this entire move up are piling in up here. We have some technical levels. We've gone over those on the charts. But let's just think about this dynamic here in order flow. Tons of shorts squeeze down this impulse. Price is ranging. Lots of longs opening here. The longs aren't flushed out yet. Another test of the highs. Tons of more longs opening up at the highs. People are just wanting to flip from bearish. All their shorts stopped out and flip long. And so the idea might be, a simple idea, that their invalidation was up here and their shorts are all stopped out. They're wrecked. But it's time to get long. Well, we'll see. Yeah, the delta in a candle is the difference between market buying and market selling. So there's 9.2 million more positive delta in this candle. So if you add up all the selling and all the buying at market, that gives you your delta, which is shown here on this line graph. Okay, let me just glance at a couple comments here. Somebody says, your conviction, your audio is good, your conviction would feel questionable and you would not want to long. And you would not want to long. I don't actually, you might have to rephrase that. I don't understand. But, I mean, I'll just say this. Like, of course I could feel stupid here if price just breaks out and we go straight to 90K. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are worried is about to happen and why they want to aggressively long. But just think about what's happening here. Like, why, even on this 5-minute candle, like, why long here? Just maybe even the retest of the previous high, but especially with the context of order flow. So what I'd hope to see over the rest of the day is a much bigger rejection into this range, maybe some local bounces, but come and take some of these lows into a key technical retracement and really punish all this FOMO. If you keep an eye on order flow and you go back and back test it, let's say you watch it every day for a year, you're going to notice something. The most relative aggressive longing you're going to see oftentimes is at the 5-minute candle high or at near the highs at the top of the range. The most aggressive selling you're going to see is at the lows. And we have an example of that here before we had a big rejection. $18 million positive delta. Literally nothing. 18 million positive delta, increase in open interest. Where? Right here. Right at the high. No big aggressive longs coming in until this local top here. Same thing here, right? Aggressive longing coming in at the highs. Everybody gets wrecked. So it doesn't mean it has to happen, but I would just say that as bullish as it might seem that, oh, everybody wants to aggressively long here, that's bullish, everybody's just going to start longing. Where do you see all the aggressive selling coming in? At the lows of the wick. As soon as you see the aggressive buying come in, price rotates to the lows, and you'll just see this over and over and over and over again. So it's a data-driven perspective for me that I'm not going to get bullish at resistance when I see tons of aggressive longing. I'd be more apt to get bullish into a local resistance if I see tons of aggressive selling. And in fact, I've reviewed the order flow of a lot of these moves on different live streams, so I won't do it here. But one of my theses here was just how similar all this order flow looks to these ranges before we had the big move up. And what I suspected to see is that people got really bearish in here. Even on these impulses, people just want to keep selling into it. They want to keep selling into it because they don't believe any of this move. And they really only want to start longing after a breakout. So we should actually see continued selling into this move, which is kind of what we got here, right? So people are just aggressively selling, even as price starts breaking up, aggressively selling. Still some big wicks where people get wrecked. You know, you have 10 million, 25 million positive delta. Some local retracements. Again, local highs. Aggressive longs come in, 9.5 million, 8.1 million. Instantly reject. They start selling. And so you can get bullish at resistance from an order flow perspective as long as you're seeing it, I mean, you can do whatever you want. But for me, if I started seeing super aggressive selling here getting absorbed, super aggressive shorting, I'd be more interested in closing this short. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the opposite. And you can think about, I mean, it's not much different than taking longs at the lows, taking shorts at the highs. Nobody ever wants to be wrong in trading, but trading isn't about being right or wrong. It's about making reasonable decisions, database decisions with risk management, and just accepting that losing a trade is part of your system. If the idea is not working, you can cut the trade. If the idea is working, and you can just limit your risk. You say, I'm willing to risk X amount on this trade. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. I'll move on to the next trade. But of course, it's not easy, because this is where I added to my longs. It's not easy to add to your longs here, because you just think, man, well, a lot of people are going to think, I mean, this looks bearish. You know, why would I long here? Price can't break out. We could just break straight down. Well, if you break straight down, you take a stop loss. And the trade didn't work. But look at the risk reward of that setup when you have clean technical ideas. And the same thing is here, right? There would be, if I posted on Twitter right now that I'm short here, and I'm expecting this retracement, me not caring if I take a stop loss or not, there's going to be a ton of people commenting, oh, you're so wrong, you're about to find out, you're about to get wrecked, you'll see. And of course, if price breaks out, what an idiot taking the short. But for me, this is just an everyday short. The risk reward is great. It's totally reasonable. I can just cut the position if it's not working. Someone says aggressive shorting absorbed would be negative delta at the top of the wicks, ? Well, it can come in anywhere. I mean, usually you see your aggressive selling at the lows of wicks because it's also marked by, but it could be anywhere. You could see you could see an aggressive short come in up here, but who has the confidence to short the highs, right? When price is impulsing, and you could even just say that applies to various time frames. So typically, what you're going to see, and we'll just show an example. There's going to be a good one here. Right here, we have 9.1 million negative delta. Let me just get the open interest here, which has just completely rescaled, and I've lost it. That doesn't matter. Okay, so we have 9.1 million negative delta coming into these lows. And we can see the distribution, or sorry, coming off this rejection. We can see the distribution of this delta, the sell side, the buy side. This is actually quite interesting. So this is an example of where we saw some really aggressive selling starting at the highs, but causing a bullish divergence against these highs. But typically where you're seeing your most aggressive selling coming in is at a move through lows. So you can imagine in this range, where are people putting their stop losses? Where are the people getting really bearish? Well, price breaks below these lows. My long setup was, it was also taking these lows. which was an impulse before breakout. It doesn't really matter. But that was my long trigger if we reclaim this low. So sweep, reclaim, that's my long trigger, my invalidation. It's actually a different version of the short setup I'm in, just on a higher time frame. But we see this big 7.8 million negative delta. A lot of it is distributed throughout the wick, and there's a peak of it at the lows of the wick, as there is going to be a lot of short longs getting stopped out there. Someone says, how do you know if aggressive buying at the highs isn't it just short stops and liquidations? Well, it's a mix of both, right? And it should be noted that aggressive buying, stopping out your shorts is aggressive buying. You have to buy long to cover your short, or vice versa. But to see if it's risk coming into the market, you look at open interest. Is open interest increasing in the candle or decreasing? If you have, let's just say this was an increase in open interest, and it was a 22 million positive delta candle on an increase in open interest. That's risk coming into the market. That means both long risk and short risk. How is the short risk coming in? Limit selling. So someone's taking a limit short into this, absorbing, using the liquidity from this breakout, the aggressive longs. So the aggressive longers are taking risk by opening longs at the highs here, and some limit sellers are taking risk by taking shorts at the highs, but theirs are with limit orders, which delta doesn't show, but you infer, right? So there's 22.7 million positive delta on an increase in open interest here. So people are FOMO opening longs, but there's also, because there's an increase in open interest, you can assume some risk coming in short. Why would somebody short and absorb 22.7 million delta in that 5-minute candle? You might want to start building a short position to use these aggressive longers at the highs as liquidity to the downside to offload the shorts. So here we're starting to see a little bit of negative delta here, right? So here's the candle, 2.4 million negative delta. This scale on this open interest is just insane. Maybe if I just close it and reopen it here. There we go. On a decrease in open interest. So this is some longs probably stopping out, taking risk out of the market. And it's distributed mostly at the bottom of the candle, but we can just imagine it's at these local lows on the 5-minute chart. So some people opening longs here, with this 9.2 million positive delta, increase in open interest, putting risk on at the highs. But yeah, I would just say this is a pretty clean local range forming with bearish absorption. For me, not financial advice. I'm using risk management. I'm ultimately long, but this is a short setup for me. So willing to see what happens. Here, but all right. And so this is the other thing, is that when I have a plan from down here, and obviously I took the initiative to just add to longs, and price action is essentially playing out exactly to my plan, why not just relax and trade around my plan until price action, my primary thesis, until price does something differently, right? My next target on a higher time frame is up towards 77K. I'm open to some more bullish ideas, and I'm just going to be seeing how price action plays out up here. My medium time frame, I'd like to wipe out some of this liquidity. This was also part of my plan, and look to add back to longs here. And until this structure is invalidated and we don't have it to trade around, the simple idea is taking longs at support, shorts at resistance. You can take profits on your longs at resistance as well. Use risk management. I need about 2 minutes and I'll be right back. All right, well, I'm going to have to, I was muted there. So somebody asked, I'll just address this briefly because I always find the question super funny. And I'm not going to say that it's, I'm not going to say it's a poor mentality, but it's a total assumption about people who are wealthy, which is, if you are such a good, I love your, it's basically the question is this: I love your live streams. I lost the question here. I'm truly amazed how great you are at trading. So my question is, if you are a really great, profitable trader, why would you charge some pennies for Discord? And my answer would just be, I could go to Elon Musk and be like, hey man, you're the richest guy in the world. If Tesla's so great, if you're worth $150 billion, why are you charging $8 for Twitter? How about this? You can join and you can not. I don't care. I value my time. I put a lot of effort into it. I also have some long-term goals. I think that having a little bit of a barrier to entry actually creates a much better environment for everybody there, including myself. And it's sort of like the difference about, for example, what you get on Twitter. I post my analysis, my thoughts on Twitter, and if I post this on Twitter, if I post my longs down in Twitter and explain them, my comments are essentially, you're a clown, you're such an idiot, you're going to get wrecked. I want to engage with people who want to be there, right? And so there's such a different, let's say, vibe to being involved with people who care at all about their trading. They care to be there. There's some barrier to entry, and I think it's great. And I put in so much work, and a lot of that's because I put in so much work in my trading. I believe the value offer is just massive. I mean, there's so many comments of people that I've seen as members just saying they've been a part of so many different quote-unquote groups, and that there's nothing like what I'm doing. So I think the value offer's there. I don't have any problem charging for something that is valuable and that people enjoy, and that's a good service. And so, yeah. I also don't have any problem with making money doing that. Someone says it's pennies to pay for the value, lucky ads. I think that's true. It works out to like a Starbucks coffee a day. Pretty reasonable. But I mean, the people's entitlement in some of like the DMs I get is crazy. It's like just random people who follow you on Twitter think you owe them something. Well, I don't. I like helping people. I like sharing what I know. I like engaging this community, engaging with people. But ultimately, it's just like in trading. I'm just going to do what I think is reasonable, makes the most sense. I care about sort of, I guess, the interactions that I'm having on a daily basis. Yeah, but there's a free Discord as well. And I'll say this. There's 7,000 people in the Discord between the free Discord and the members Discord. And the members Discord channels are, I would say, 1,000, 10,000 to 1, maybe 1,000 to 1 more active than the public channels. And it's just people who are more invested and dedicated in trading, which there's a correlation there, let's say, that people who, and those are the kind of people that I want to be spending more time interacting with. So anyways, I think this is kind of interesting. We're probably falling into an interesting local range to watch. We're going to be falling into the risk here of just sitting and watching the 5-minute chart. And so I'll sum up my thoughts here, which is as we head to the New York Open, which is in about an hour and a half, which is a key time to look out for maybe a new local high to come in as well. We're 5 minutes off of our new 4-hour candle. And an hour and a half, roughly, a little longer from the New York Open. Maybe running this one more time would be interesting. But I'm really cautious here about a bigger rejection to the downside. That's why I'm looking for the head short with the front run of all-time highs. But carrying my longs higher and looking to add to longs on retracements. Whether that comes from here or we come and take the all-time highs and it comes from there. Any retracement for me is going to be a chance to add to my swing long positions. But I would never long here, personally. No, so somebody says, sure, thanks for the answer. I am very strict on things like that, but damn, results of your work are great. Might buy it and risk it all. So hopefully that's a joke. Don't come into the Discord with the thought of, I'm going to risk everything on a super high leverage position on the next trade idea that you talk about. You're going to get wrecked. I mean, for example, I'm head short here and this idea could stop out. That's not what I teach. There's so much educational materials on how to manage risk and become consistent and build up a trading account over time. And a big component of that is not taking on too much risk. Someone says, can we pay with USDT? Yes, you can. It's just, there's a link to the website in the description of this video, I think. I think it automatically just gets put in there. But the focus is on education, right? So the reason I break down, explain everything I'm doing, there's like 30 some educational videos that are about 15 to 20 minutes long covering different concepts. And so I would say it's a pretty intensive experience in terms of, like, if you're just looking for signals, so to speak. Although I might share my trade setups and I might say that, like, for example, and this is what I mean by intensive. I'm going to come to it here in a second. When I took my longs down at the lows, when I added up that wick, I say adding to longs on reclaim here, cutting on a breakdown. I added. That held up, and we ended up getting a local breakout here. And where's my target? Right where price is now, right? So this is down at the lows here. But before that, I had gone through and explained all of the reasons why I'm looking to still be long here, to add to my longs from lower. I'm sharing a 5-minute video. I'm going through some of the order flow. I'm talking about some of the targets. I'm talking about different scenarios as well. If we do break down and I cut my longs, this is what I'm looking at. And so you're constantly going to be seeing in-depth analysis on the reasons I'm making the decisions I'm making. And I think that's a pretty, I'd say, intense environment. Like, you have to be willing and interested in understanding those things. A lot of people love the Discord, and those are the members that are there and the members who have been there for years. There's going to be people, and there has been, it's pretty rare, I would say, but that just say, hey, I'm not interested in understanding the why or the reasoning or whatever. I just want a signal. Should I long or should I short? They're not even interested in understanding invalidation, risk management, anything like that. And this is not the place for somebody like that. It just isn't. It's the place for somebody who's interested in taking ownership over their own destiny and progression as a trader. They want to personally work on their own trading and develop as a trader. So I'm not sure what the prospects are out there for just signals groups where you just have channels that say long here, short here, long here, short here. I'll just say my personal opinion is that will never work for anyone. It might work for 1 or 2 trades, but if you don't understand the reason you're taking the trades in a way that you would take them and invalidate them and have the targets you have, regardless of if you're coming up with the idea because you see it on someone else's chart. You need to understand the ideas you're trading, or you're just going to get wrecked. Okay, somebody's saying, someone's saying that Binance reached 76,000 on Bitcoin futures. Yeah, so it looks like a big wick that wiped out the big liquidity wipe of the book. I mean, that happens, right? It's not the first time we've seen a big exchange or a big pairing have a big move to the downside. So, you know, does that mean I think that we're about to do the same on every other exchange? Not really, not here. I mean, it could happen, but that's closer to my ultimate target, which would be 77K ultimately. And so you could say that that's some confluence maybe, but yeah, it's just kind of irrelevant to me here, other than to say that eventually I'd like to see Bitcoin push up to that level for my swing trades. But we've had those big wicks that don't get filled. Someone said, I passed phase 1 on challenge in one trade from long that you explained. Great. That's awesome. Although I would be somewhat cautious with some of these prop firms, because so some members in the Discord, we have some pretty big success stories where some members went and did prop, and like the highest payouts that some of these funds had ever paid out in history to LATF members, and there have been a lot of props going under, so, and not paying people out, and definitely want to be cautious. All right, well, those are my thoughts. I mean, key local resistance here, consolidating with some at resistance, but with signs of bearish absorption forming. There's a chance that I might cut a short and reopen if something like this happens, and just waiting for the failed breakout, because to me that still has a bit of a bearish look to it. But I would say that the overall perspective is that it's bullish. Could be bullish continuation from here, but even on retracements, I'm still bullish, looking for longs down here. And right now, to me, I wouldn't cut my shorts here, that assuming there's about to be a breakout or a sweep of these highs, because that's essentially breakout longing, right? And so I'll just let this level play out. I'm going to keep an eye on how price plays if we do sweep this high again. But whether or not I hold my short or cut it, that does not mean I would ever long here. I'll wait for a deeper retracement. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on price action, how it develops over the next week. I'm really looking forward to trading the ensuing price action. I think I have some pretty strong thesis, a couple different scenarios to look at, but ultimately targeting a breakout of all-time highs at some point in the near to mid future, and just looking to trade longs. So anyways, maybe I'll just take a quick look at comments, and then I'm going to end this live stream chilling in swing longs and have a head short here that may or may not hold. All right, scan through the comments here, and I'm just going to wrap it up. I think this is a critical level to watch. Breakout always possible. And I might get live. If we went straight to 77K, I might just get live again because that's also a very critical level. All right,